Hey all, welcome. Episode 5 of Uniquely Unqualified Podcast. Couple topics that we're going to hit on today. Today is Friday, February 27th, 2026. I'm not going to go too much into politics because I'd rather have a little bit more time on my second topic. But we are going to go over the kind of a brief thing politically regarding the Epstein files and the Clinton depositions. Not in great detail, just a couple of little things that I want to mention. But then I'm going to switch that up kind of radically and talk about relationships and marriage. And then after that, I've got a cool X post. It's actually quite ridiculous. I'm gonna call a popular influencer out as a dummy. So first things first, please like and subscribe. It doesn't take much, but a click means everything to me as I'm growing this channel. But if you don't like the content, you don't have to watch it. But at the very least, please like and subscribe. And worst case scenario for me, I fall to the bottom of your algorithm and I still get the click. Anyway, so let's talk about the Clinton deposition. Hillary Clinton, I think, is one of the most despised characters in human existence. She is a uniquely disturbing human being, not just to look at, but to also listen to. She was made a fool. Where was she? Was she in Munich? She was made a fool by somebody, some political leader, European political leader. And she just couldn't help herself but to just keep interrupting and keep trying to nail down her point, which didn't actually have anything to do with what the discussion was. And so the fact that she's relegated to looking like a dummy in Europe, that kind of says a lot. When she was asked about being deposed, she said something that she was asked the exact same line of questioning over and over and over, and that was a waste of time and just gotcha questions and blah, blah, blah. No, it's not. That's an interrogation tactic. It's a technique. You ask the same question multiple different times, either in order, slightly out of order, but you're basically trying to elicit a different answer to the same question. If you hold steadfast and you understand that you're being asked the same question 5, 7, 10 times in a row, and you just continuously give the same answer, that's the proper way to handle a situation like that. Trying to play some form of a victim card because the Trump administration is trying to come after you, that doesn't work. Well, at least for me, it works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for me. So the other thing that the other thing that happened was after her deposition, somebody on her side of the aisle came to the podium with their team and spoke, and absolutely just these people are incredible. Like, what's more incredible is the reception that regular folks give to them, but these people that say these things and do this double talk stuff, these people are absolutely incredible. They're insufferable. It's amazing. He comes to the podium and he says, "This isn't a bipartisan issue. This is not a partisan issue. This is Republicans and Democrats, each side of the aisle, yada yada." But then he just can't help himself but saying that, "But we need to hear from President Trump because he's a blah blah blah." This isn't about President Trump at this moment. This is about Hillary Clinton being deposed about Jeffrey Epstein and her involvement, relationship, or lack thereof with Mr. Epstein. Now, Hillary Clinton claims to have known nothing about anything that he ever did. She never visited any of his properties, including the island, none of his offices, never rode in a car, never rode in the plane, nothing. She claims nothing. That's impossible. She was married to a man and this is not a conspiracy theory. This is a real painting of Bill Clinton sitting in a blue dress with his legs crossed in Jeffrey Epstein's property. As a wife, you know what your husband's doing. And so this is kind of just more of the reason why she's got to be the most hated person in the planet. Certainly in America. I mean, this woman is something else, man. She is icky. I'm not going to go through any of the Pizzagate because she wanted to say that she was all pissy about that. One thing that my brother brought up years ago was this video, Frazzle Drip. I've never seen it. I've never seen a mock-up of it. Supposedly it's something about Hillary Clinton eating a baby or drinking blood out of a child skull, some horrible shit. Maybe not, I don't know. As time goes on and more of this stuff gets exposed, I kind of think, probably. But as far as, the purpose of her getting deposed, I don't think that those are good questions to ask because there's just nothing substantial to back the question on. However, when it comes to what was your husband doing with this guy, and she claims that she doesn't know, but she knows all the photos of Bill Clinton with young women and blah, blah, blah. So Hillary Clinton's just full of shit. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's that. She is sitting there and she's trying to claim herself as a victim. They tried to ask all these conspiratorial questions and they tried to ask them multiple times in a row, over and over and over. Well, yeah, that's what they're there for. They're there to ask you the same question multiple times in different ways, over and over and over, to see if you have a consistent answer. And the reason why you have a problem with that is because you have no consistency, which means that you're full of shit. Now, Bill Clinton, I think that was going on today, I believe. The most I could get as of kind of just before I clicked record on this thing was that Bill Clinton had said that Bill, never saw any evidence, never saw Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, around Jeffrey Epstein. Never. Well, I believe that Donald Trump's name, when searched in the Epstein files, is in there like the most, or at least top 3. Let's give it top 4 because I imagine Jeffrey Epstein would be in there the most. But I still to this day haven't opened any of that. I'm just being an observer, and none of it looks good. None of it. I mean, it's all bullshit. It's all craziness. None of it makes sense. And we're never going to get to the bottom of this, by the way. Heads aren't going to roll for this. Whatever machine that is way too big and powerful. And our United States government is, I think, just rotten to the fucking core. And anyway, so Bill Clinton says that, he is unaware of anything regarding Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, okay, cool. Here's where I start having a problem with a statement like that. On X and other social media platforms, you've got a bunch of these more conservative, I'm not going to use the word right wing because I'm tired of hearing that in reference to journalists or reporters or influencers. No, somebody just might have a conservative bend. Somebody might have a more liberal bend. Somebody might tend closer to socialism. Somebody might be a full-blown communist. But as far as left wing, right wing, we need to be more specific with the titles that we give these people. And so, conservative. I don't recall exactly who it was, but this conservative guy on Twitter brings up the fact that Bill Clinton stated in his deposition that he himself, Bill, does not have any knowledge of any comporting that Donald Trump had with Jeffrey Epstein. And at the end of that tweet, it said, "Vindication for Trump." I've been seeing a lot of, what are they, posts? You can't call them tweets. Posts on X right after the 3+ million pages of the Epstein files were released. Right after that, you started seeing these conservative influencers and journalists saying, "Vindication for Trump, vindication for Trump." And you see Whoopi and the rest of them cackling, hands on the View. You see Whoopi, basically defending herself for being in the fucking Epstein files a bunch, and then stating that, well, just because you're in the files doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Well, yeah, no shit. So why are you just directly saying that Donald Trump is in the files and that means he's guilty? Well, then that means you're guilty, Whoopi. And so, anyway, just tone all this shit down from the super duper captured liberal media to the super duper captured conservative media and influencers. I think we're all just kind of getting a little sick and fucking tired of hearing about how this one's innocent, but this one's guilty. This one's guilty, but this one's innocent. But never mind, anybody that's guilty or innocent has had their fucking names redacted off of the documents. Everybody that's guilty and implicated has a black bar over their name. So the only people that know who's actually guilty are the DOJ and Congress. Assuming that Congress actually looked through the files with any sort of honesty. Because, let's say they get to look through the unredacted files first, and they just got that crazy Trump derangement syndrome thing that everyone talks about, and they just want to say, Trump, I'm just going to look for Trump. Trump. Or I'm going to look for Clinton. Clinton. Or I'm going to look for Comey. I'm going to look for Will Smith. I'm going to look for Jamie Foxx. I'm going to look for, the Crown Prince of Saudi. I'm going to look for, the royal family. I'm going to just, people are so fucking isolated in their thoughts. It's disgusting. And when I say isolated, they're just so singularly focused. And the worst part about that is that people that are in charge of us are singularly focused. And that a singularly focused person should not necessarily be in charge of anything. They should be good at whatever they're singularly focused on. But you can't. I've got people in my family that are singularly focused, and I wouldn't put them in charge of making a grocery list. They're just, Anyway, I'm gonna get way off track, and this stuff just irritates me, obviously. So it does not mean that Trump is vindicated in any way. Absolutely does not. Does not. You know, Trump went from talking mad shit about the Clintons to Hillary's very capable, she's very capable, and Bill, I've always liked Bill, he's a nice guy. So we went from they're the antithesis of America to, oh shit, they're about to be deposed, so I better talk sweet or maybe pay them somehow, or give them some kind of assurance or guarantee. But for whatever you do, just don't tell them about me. That's possible too. And at this point in time in the administration, I wouldn't hold that against any of these people. Again, I think that our entire government is directly implicated in this whole thing. I think that Israel and the U.S. Side note: when my kids were in daycare, they went to this cool daycare. It was just a regular commercial building, but they did a bunch of like chicken mesh and plaster exterior to make it look like a little castle. But the lady that owned it was a Israeli Jew, her and her family or whatever. It was a great daycare, but I was young in the military, and so I would take my son to daycare, and she would be very interested. The owner of the daycare would be very interested in talking to me about the relationship between the United States and Israel. And she said that if you want to see peace in the Middle East and peace in America and funding restored and all that, like whatever she said, this was a long time ago. She said that the alliance between the United States and Israel needs to be broken. That was an Israeli Jewish woman running a daycare where I would drop my son off at. And today, as we sit here today, she was right. Anyway, so we have we have this disgusting network, this unbelievable network of bribery, coercion, just corruption between the two nations. The more and more I really look at it, I really do think that Benjamin Netanyahu I think that guy is a really, really bad dude. And, I've got a bias against Islam, but I can also identify a really bad dude that wants to accomplish a goal that he has personally against a group of people, regardless of where he's from or his religion. I think that no matter what, a guy like Netanyahu is capable of genociding any group of people. I'm not saying that he has. I'm just saying that I think he's a bad dude, and the relationship between the United States and Israel is probably why we're in this mess with the Epstein files. So, there is rumor about Donald Trump. It's not even a rumor. I think it's factually true that Donald Trump was somewhat of an FBI, not an informant, maybe an informant, assistant, something. He was some form of an assistant in Jeffrey Epstein's first arrest. Donald Trump was. That's factually true. Now, anything before that, after that, I don't know. I don't really care enough to know. But as far as a bunch of folks claiming conservative influencers and journalists and stuff like that, those claims of vindication are premature. I think that they are unfounded. I personally don't appreciate it because you're just kind of assuming that whatever paycheck you're getting because your name is right out there on Twitter that or X, that means that everybody's going to listen to you, and you are the authority figure over this subject, and the cat's out of the bag at this point. These folks get paid, thousands of dollars a post to say great things about this political person or bad things about this political person. Both sides do it. It's gross. But anyway, that's where I'll kind of leave that. So Hillary is still a fucking reptile. She is a disgusting. She's just a disgusting person. She is not a victim by any means. The fact that the very first thing that her side of the aisle wanted to do was say, but Trump. That's gross. Bill, he's on his way out anyway. He's on his deathbed. There's nothing that makes me think that Bill Clinton isn't a serial rapist, an absolute pussy hound, more than likely a child molester, just one of the world's ickiest criminals, arguably a pretty good president, and just because he says something in court favoring Donald Trump does not, under any circumstances, vindicate the current sitting president. The Epstein files has dirt on absolutely everybody, and I think that if we saw it, it would be like that scene in Ace Ventura where Ace Ventura exposes Lieutenant Einhorn for being Ray Finkel, and everybody at the end goes and they're all barfing at the dolphin enclosure. I think that if everybody saw the Epstein files, that's what would happen. Anyway, on to a much better topic, but I'll try to not spend a full hour on this, but I'm really verbose about relationships, specifically marriage. I got a bunch of friends. I had a guy tell me one time when my son was born. His name's Miguel. He was in. I joined the military after my son was born, and so I was in. My son was born in Nampa, Idaho, and I at the time worked for a Walmart Tire and Lube Express. And this guy Miguel was a pastor at his Christian fellowship, and also the shop manager. I worked really good, and so he was 25 years my senior, 26 years my senior. And then as my son was he was a good man to me in the workplace, and as my son was being bored, I asked him to come and bless my son. He agreed. He came into the hospital room, and after he blessed my son, he said a little prayer, did a little thing over his forehead and everything, and then before this Miguel man left the hospital, he made this statement to me, and he said, "Friends will fail you." And I took that, and I have had that in my pocket for my entire life, because there is nothing more true than that. I do have what I would consider best friends. I bounce around a little bit, and so I've got a best friend here, and I've got a best friend there, and I've got a best friend over there, and it's just like, who do I go to immediately to have the best damn time with no issues where I'm at? And so I got a couple of best friends. Between my wife and I, we have, frankly, too many friends. I'm not saying that to be rude or unkind. But since we've been largely retired, we do a lot of social stuff, and I'm not actually a very social person. As a matter of fact, this whole podcast thing is kind of me trying to be comfortable, in front of a camera, taking pictures, interacting with more people, be it by writing online or in person. Anyway. So I figure I'm not too bad at the relationship part, and I also don't think I'm too bad at the marriage part. So I would like to start off with my qualifier for this little rant. And I'm gonna get a little kind of like relationship counselor, psychology kind of a thing with you. And the first thing I would like to say about the relationship thing is, I think I mentioned this in the first or second episode, that I was never a partier. I was never promiscuous. I never had multiple girlfriends. I can count on one hand how many sexual partners I've had in my whole life. My child was not born out of wedlock. I was married before his mother got pregnant. His mother and I divorced obviously after he was born. But I have been divorced twice, and I've been married 3 times. Some people would say, oh, that's not a good track record. Well, I disagree. Marriage is a two-way street. However, when there's one side, and there's 2 sides to every story, but, admittedly, I'll give you mine. When a first marriage, there is no help around the household, and you're the only one working, and, you're putting in hours and hours and hours of work, and the other person does not work. It is not to say that a woman needs to be chained to the kitchen sink and do the dishes, but if the man is out working, it would be nice if shit was tidy around the house since you're at home. 2 reasons why I divorced my son's mother, and they're actually the same reason. So I was living in Los Angeles, and I was working HVAC and appliances, and I would routinely be on side jobs over the weekend making extra money, but I was just an apprentice, and so I was up in the attic sweating, getting itchy, and I'd do that for anywhere from 10 to 16 hours out of the day, and that was hard, and it sucked, and I was young, and I was 18, and I would come home from a long, hard, hot day, and because the baby wasn't born yet, the baby wasn't even a thing, nobody was pregnant, but, literally nothing was done around the house. Nothing. The cat box wasn't scooped. There was no dishes done ever. Generally just kind of a mess, and we lived in a little studio apartment. And I've just never been a messy person. I don't like that. I like stuff to be orderly and tidy. And so, we split up. She moved out of the state, and then I'm at work one day and I get a phone call, and it was her saying that she's pregnant. And so we tried to make it work. I moved out of California and I moved up to Idaho, and my child being born was a remarkable experience, and it even drew me unbelievably close to his mother, until nothing changed. And so I'm working at this Tire and Lube Express. As you can imagine, it's Walmart, so I'm getting a whole bunch of complaints from customers because nothing you can do is right enough. They think they paid for this. It comes up on your screen that they didn't. You only performed these. You didn't do this. You didn't hit the grease fittings. And well, you only paid for this. You're supposed to do it. Anyway, you're dirty. It's not a stressful job. It was just a dirty job. And anyway, so I would just come home to the same shit as the reason why we split up in the first place. I will admit that I was unfaithful. However, being at this time now 19, my son was born shortly after I turned 19, I really didn't see a way out of any of that. And so as a young, stupid guy, I was seeing somebody else, and then we divorced. I actually ended up marrying that somebody else. That marriage ended up getting annulled, that relationship was very toxic. That was a very, very, very bad time in my life for me and my son. It was not good. It was a lot of turmoil. Anytime the kids were around, there was just constant yelling and screaming at the kids, and she really had disdain for my son, and it was just a bad show. Although I will tell you, because of the way everything happened between my first two marriages, I'm one person, I'm somebody that, you only got to tell them once. I've never been dishonest or unfaithful in a relationship before or since that one time I was dishonest and unfaithful in my first marriage. So now I'm on my third marriage, and we have been together this is our 16th year and our 15th year in marriage. So I guess that's my qualifier. We were definitely happy. The kids are older and out of the house and working and doing their own thing. So, we're together all the time. It's just us and the dog. And we're not at each other's throats. I hate leaving the house without her. It's just not fun. I'm at a time in my life where I gotta have fun. I gotta have fun. Anything I'm doing, it's gotta be fun. And I equate fun with my wife. My wife is fun. She's fun. She's a fucking blast. Drives me fucking nuts, but she's a blast. And, she is a huge reason why, we have the social standing that we have back in Idaho and down here in rural Mexico. So I'm going to go in no particular order. But I am going to start with my current marriage. Started after I was in the military. I was in the military for over 2 years before my current wife and I started seeing each other. I had known my wife since she was 14 and I was 19. I was still with my first wife when I met my current wife. She was the younger sister of my friend's then wife. And so I was over at their house for a dinner or some kind of a gathering, and my current wife at 14 years old was there. And I had my little baby boy, and my son's mother and I had since, we weren't together anymore. So that was actually the first time that I met my current wife. The second time that I met her was when my buddy and his wife actually physically, legally got married. They got married in a courthouse because she got pregnant. So my son was born first, his son was born a year after. And so then I met my wife again when she was 15, 16 years old-ish. And then I leave for the military and I come back on pass and I'm hanging out with this friend, and my wife had since also had a child at 18 years old, and I met her again after she was 18, and Mason, the youngest boy, was an infant. It was around that time when my friend's wife, my wife's sister, started insisting on playing Cupid between me and my wife. So fast forward a little bit, I leave. I'm in Afghanistan. I took leave a little early because it was going to be my son's birthday, and I wanted to be there for his birthday. And this was in 2010. So I come home in September, and what was this? This happened on a Friday. Yes. So I was set to fly back to Afghanistan very early Sunday morning. So I'm staying in a hotel in downtown Boise with my son. My mother was his guardian at the time because I wasn't married. His mother didn't have custody of him, etc. So this guy, my friend, whose wife is my wife's older sister, comes over to the hotel on a Friday night, and they come over and his wife walks through the door, and his wife says to me, "I brought a surprise for you." And in walks her younger sister, this girl that I had met multiple times before, my now wife. And funny story was, at the end of the night, it was a fine night, it was great. Had a couple drinks, kids played together, it was cool. I escort them downstairs into the lobby and say goodbye. And then my wife's sister looks at both of us and says something to the effect of, "Well, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it for you. So, you take phone numbers and blah, blah, blah." So I took her phone number, and she says, "I'm going to Art in the Park tomorrow." Well, I'm a tough army guy and going back to Afghanistan on Sunday. It's Friday night. I'm not going to fucking Art in the Park. So I wake up the next morning somewhere around like 5 o'clock in the morning, just thinking to myself what a dumbass I was. And I gave her until about 7 a.m. I don't even think I gave her until 7. I think I might have called her before 7 a.m., 6:30 on a Saturday morning. And I said, "Hey, I'm sorry for saying that I wasn't going to go, but if you're still going to go to Art in the Park, I want to go to Art in the Park with you." So we go to Art in the Park. And that was great. We had ice cream cones, and I don't even remember if there was a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, but it was cool. Somewhere around lunchtime, we parted ways, and we had just kind of agreed to, all right, see you later, one arm hug, adios, thanks for the ice cream or the snow cones. And so we part ways, and I get back to my mom's house because my mom and my stepdad wanted to do a barbecue. They surprised me with a barbecue as I was leaving the next day. And I asked my mom and my stepfather if I could invite a friend over. They said, of course. And so I call my wife, not even my girlfriend back then, and I say, "Hey, my parents are throwing a barbecue and you're invited. I'd like it if you could come." So she came. We had a great time. I was keen to, stand next to her. Never held hands. I think while the kids were jumping on the trampoline, I think I would, stand next to her and I rubbed her back or something, And then when it came time to leave, we parted with nothing but a hug and a stay in touch. And so the long and the short of that one is we stayed in touch. And every opportunity that I had to either communicate via Facebook or phone call with her, I would. We wanted to be in some form of a relationship somewhere around November after I got back to Afghanistan. And then by the time I was home in May, we were just absolutely thrilled to see each other. We didn't snuggle up together for almost a month after that. So we had been on the phone communicating and writing and phone call for, nearly a whole year. And then when we finally see each other to begin something of a dating relationship, I did finally get that first kiss at the airport as I came through. But again, it was, a month after that before there was any intimacy. So my relationship with my wife was, we kind of understood what each other were after. I'm not trying to have a girlfriend. I want to be married. I want to be married. I want to have a family. I want to, blah, blah, blah. So she ended up agreeing to marry me in a fucking coffee shop because I had been recruited for assessment and selection to go to what's called SFAS, Special Forces Assessment and Selection. It's not training, it's just assessment and selection. So you go through, they whoop your ass for a few weeks, see if they like what they see in your eyes and in your fortitude and integrity. And you either get to go through or not. And at the time I wasn't married, and my mom didn't want to maintain guardianship of my son. Her and my stepdad wanted me to raise my son. Well, this is a bit of a problem because I'm not married, and my son, me giving guardianship to his mother was just not an option at that time. And so I was talking with the recruiter, and the recruiter basically said, well, you either need to give the kid back to his mom or get married. And I said to the recruiter, so if I get married, then this whole thing can happen, it can go through. So I go off and I go back to the house and I look at my lady and I said, she knew that I was going through this whole thing. And I said, look, the only way that this is going to happen is if we get married, and we have to get married like immediately. And she just kind of says, okay. And so we found a judge in the court that would do an after-hours marriage anywhere we wanted to meet. And so we went to, I don't even know if these damn things exist there anymore, but we went to a Moxie Java. It's kind of like a local Starbucks coffee thing. And this old judge just smiled on his face, give me your $75 and doodly-doodly-doo. Do you want the ceremony? Sure. We got a picture of the whole thing. My mom was there to witness. Her mother was there to witness. And so that was how we got married. So including the time that I was gone in that first deployment, through other deployments, training exercises, etc., for the first 7 years of my marriage to my current wife, I was gone for a total of 5. 5 years out of 7, I was not there. I had a tremendous amount of help from my grandmother. My grandmother moved in to help out. My grandmother has passed away from cancer years ago. But my grandmother was there with my wife and my 2 kids while I was playing soldier. That did not come without its problems. I don't know how many books are written by, former army wives about what a son of a bitch their husband was afterwards. Can't tell you how many of my guys, man, it was like almost all of them where their girls back home were cheating on them. It was sad. It's rough. It's rough doing that. It puts a lot of doubt in your mind. It's hard, when everybody else around you, when their girlfriend or baby mama or wife just can't handle it and just has to get some dick. It's fucking rough, man. And so there was pressure and tension on our relationship for years after that. I spent time in a mental institution. I was there for a week before Christmas. My wife and I weren't doing good then. That's not to say that she was doing anything dishonest. I don't believe that she was. I believe that she had one foot out the door. Big part of that, I think, was her mother, who I'm not a fan of publicly. But what husband is a fan of their mother-in-law? Anyway, another one of the reasons why there was tension in our relationship is, my wife grew up in a household where, for some fucking reason, and they blame it on medical bills, and they had a ton of other kids. I'm a pretty resourceful guy. I would never have two jobs ever, but apparently her mother and stepfather always had two jobs each, which is ridiculous. Just have one good paying full-time job, focus on it intensely, get really good on it, get a raise, get blah, 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 be highly paid with that thing. And then you don't need to, get 5 hours of sleep at night and rush all over the place and eat shitty food out of a bag and have 9 kids and no time together. Like, that's not a life. So my wife was, for a long time, she really, really, really was trying to push. I need another job. I need another job. I need another job. I need another job. That's always been a no-go. And I understand that there's people that were able to make that work. I do not believe that they are the majority. I think that if you're in a relationship and you were able to make the two jobs each thing work, good on you. But how much do you actually love each other in that case, that you're okay with being away from each other that much? Anyway, so, and I will sit here and say that I was fucking right. She was able to focus intensely on her career, and that got her way further down any road than dividing her focus up into two different things just for the sake of an extra dollar in the savings account. It's not worth it for your relationship if you love the person. Another thing is, time. Just it's not another thing. It's just time. You need time together. You need to go on dates. You need to go on walks. Even if you're mad at each other, you have a routine. So even if you're mad at each other, grumble. Hey, it's 6:30. It's our walk time. We got to go for a walk. As long as you go for that walk together, be in each other's presence. Don't say a word. Walk abreast each other, not single file, but together. Walk down the road. Don't say a damn word to each other. Be mad. But be mad at each other, sitting there together, walking in tandem, equally together, enjoying the trees and the birds, however the fuck you want to individually enjoy the trees and the birds. But for God's sakes, be in that moment together. If you can't afford a date, my wife and I, we couldn't afford a lot of dates. We didn't go to the movies. We didn't go out to restaurants a whole bunch. We went on walks. We went camping. We went hiking. We went swimming. We, in the military at the time, you got a totally free membership, family membership to the YMCA. So, it's like we're here and we got nothing else better to do, but we got this giant YMCA thing with diving boards, water slides, martial arts programs and all sorts of other fun shit for the kids. So we make it work. You make it work. And just being creative. Spend time with each other. Spend time together as a family, no matter how much your kids want to bitch at you and sit there and play their video game. That is your job as a parent to not allow them to do that. It is your job as a parent to teach them manners, how to sit at the dinner table. Don't make a fuss, don't make a ruckus. We're sitting here politely and calmly. We're all going together. Kids will sit there and bitch and cry because whatever is in front of their face right now is just what they're focused on. It's not bringing them any gain or education, especially in the era of my children where it was just fucking video games all the time. And so it was all I could do to do the step below pure force to get your ass outside. We're going to the park. We used to go out and there's a shooting range not too far away from the house where we lived, and we'd pack up a bunch of sandwiches after work and we would go have a picnic dinner shooting guns. So even if we're mad at each other, sex for 10 years I was not able to do that, and I think that hurt me a hell of a lot more than it hurt her, because as a man, a young man, I had been in Afghanistan for a few years at this point, and IEDs, small arms engagements, just fucking hormones, just pinging on 11 and never going below 7 and never able to relax. We're on a fire base, so our fucking tent is right next to a goddamn howitzer pit. And they launch those suckers at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. No sleep. My testosterone was destroyed by the time I came home from Afghanistan and was just set in a battalion as the reconnaissance NCO for a battalion. And that drove me fucking crazy too, because all those people, those were not troops. At least the way I viewed what a troop was. And the end of this portion is, the answer is have sex as much as you can. You can't be mad at each other when you're enjoying the piss out of each other. And, by the time I was both able to afford it and enjoy it, I got out of the Army from the reserves. And so by this time, I had a small construction company. I graduated college, and I was just fat and miserable. My guy parts didn't work. We maybe were intimate twice a month. maybe. And that was hard. It was real hard. And then when I actually first started being able to correct that, man, that pendulum swung in the other direction quick, fast, and in a hurry. And she didn't know what the fuck to do with it. And so that created a little bit of a rift. But by the time we worked through that, you know, years later, we are constantly jumping each other's bones. And it just makes little disagreements that much more stupid to that you just don't engage in them. You know, I wake up grouchy sometimes. There's shit going through my head. Wakes me up in the middle of the night. Can't get back to sleep. So, you know, I grumble out of bed and I just, you know, the fuck is this? Why is that fucking sitting there? You know, just being a dick. And, you know, sometimes in the morning I can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. You're really supposed to leave me alone in the morning until I've got my routine done. As long as I get my routine done, I'm happy as a clam. But even on those days where I'll pop off at the mouth with something stupid that she doesn't like, I make for goddamn sure that I go and do a forward, in her face, eye to eye, clear apology for my behavior, for lipping off, or, you know, saying something shitty. And as you know, that keeps her interested. It also keeps me interested because I know that I'm being an asshole. And at the end of the day, I want to have a really close, super fun, intimate relationship with my wife. A lot of relationship counselors, when you're talking about preserving relationship, talk about sex, having sex. Sex keeps you young. It literally keeps you young. Keeps your brain firing, keeps you happy. And when you're happy, everybody's happy. And that's not to say that if you're just not physically attracted to each other, like, don't try to push something. If you guys are just not physically attracted to each other, then, you know, I mean, people split up all the time. I'm not saying that, you know, time, sex is the only two things that you need. I've got a couple more on this list. But if the other person genuinely annoys the fuck out of you every time you're together, you shouldn't be together. If they don't annoy the fuck out of you, but you look at them and you're just like, I just don't want to see that naked. Well, you know, there's probably not a whole lot you can fix with that. Unless you become whatever they want to look at. Up to you. That's probably the better thing to do. Become what they want to look at. In which case, then you'll be attracted and want to have sex. So yeah, as much and as frequently as possible, fucking schedule it if you need to at first. But for God's sakes, like, you gotta make this stuff work. Relationships, business, marriage, those things take a lot of energy. It takes a lot of work, time together. Which brings me to the other thing, compromise. There's a saying, happy wife, happy life. Bullshit. Bullshit. Happy me, happy life. Same for her, happy life, but don't forget about me. Because if I'm a miserable cunt, then I'm going to be miserable everywhere. And same thing with her. If you're in a relationship and you're just constantly doling it out, just give everything. Oh, you gotta be happy, gotta be happy. No, what makes a woman happy is a man that stands up and says, this is bullshit. We're not fucking doing it this way. My wife and I were sitting there one time when we weren't doing too well in our relationship, and this is how unimportant this thing was. I don't even remember what we were talking about. But we were arguing in the living room about something. And I storm out of the living room, huffing and puffing. And I come back into the living room and I say, by the way, no one's separating over this. No one's getting a divorce over this. We're going to figure this out. We're going to make this work. Because the easy way out is separating and getting a divorce. And I don't think anybody actually wants that. It's not fun. Divorce is awful. So, naturally as a man, you're going to award your wife more and your family more than you award yourself. I know men that won't, don't, didn't, and haven't. And I only know them. I'm not really friends with them because I don't see that as a virtuous way to live and be. By and large, the only damn thing I wanted while my kids were wearing the best shoes, the best jeans, the best clothes, she looked pretty, dolled up, the best vehicle I could get her, best Christmases. By and large, really all I needed was my beer at the end of the day to relax. You want to go shopping, go thrift stores, come home with bags of shit that we can't afford and that we don't need. Well, then just give me the beer. Just give me the beer. So naturally, as a man, you're going to afford your wife and your family more than you afford yourself. However, that compromise needs to happen. It cannot be one way all the time. It cannot be one way 55% of the time. It can't. The both of you must be happy. And that happiness is found inside of your compromise. Another thing is money. No money is the root of all evil. It's not the opposite. It's not money is the root of all evil. It's no money is the root of all evil. In a relationship, in a marriage. I don't think that there's any more deciding factor of divorce than financial problems. My wife and I have had financial problems. We no longer have financial problems. We both worked we were both young, we both worked very hard. We both educated ourselves. Neither one of us were helped in any way for either education or job by our parents or anyone that we knew. We did that ourselves, and we did it together. And so we watched ourselves grow from this little 2-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house to a much, much, much larger 3-bedroom house in the foothills, and then eventually into a big ass land, 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, big house. So we never faltered. My wife is very money motivated. I am not. I am in no way money motivated. Money pisses me off. It stresses me out. I don't like it. I know that I need it. I know that I need as much as I can possibly get. And I'm going to get it all if I can. I'm going to get as much as I can. Why? Because that's a game that we play. Would it be lovely if that wasn't the game? Yes, it would, but it's not, so we must. And go make that paper, boo-boo. You got to get paid. You got to get paid. There's 2 schools of thought, especially in a marriage with your money. Separate or together. I prefer together. We've done it both ways. for us, separate doesn't work. Largely because, as I mentioned earlier, I would literally only buy beer, pair of shoes if they're falling off my feet. I'll tell you, I haven't bought a stitch of clothing for myself in close to 15 years. You know, there's been a lot of shit that I wanted before I could afford it. I just didn't buy it. You know, life is short, but it also takes a while, you know. So bankrupting yourself as a young person to get this fucking car that you want, it's like, no, dude, just do a better job at your work, get promoted, get a bigger paycheck, be able to afford it. And then before you know it, in 10 years, you'll be 30, not 20. You'll be able to afford it. You're smarter. You know how to do more shit. You know how to wash it better. You can still enjoy it. You're still young at 30 or 40, 50. You know, like a whole bunch of these folks at car shows having these badass rides, or I'm just picking on cars. A whole bunch of these guys are in their 50s and 60s, and they can drive. They can go fast. They know what they're doing. Anyway, so once we separated it, you know, we actually separated our finances my second time in Afghanistan. And one of the reasons was to kind of experiment. And that experiment went to, you know, my wife wanting to ask if I can pay for something that she was supposed to pay for, because she went off and wanted to buy whatever fucking thing she wanted to buy instead of covering her fucking end of the deal. And, you know, for us, it just kind of turned out, just keep it as one big pot and everybody do their part. Make sure that there's rules, make sure everybody follows those rules. But by and large, no, not by and large, absolutely, pooling our money together has been far more fruitful than anything. Separating it, you know, she likes to be in charge of the money. Well, it works when there's a lot of it to be in charge of. When shit gets down to the wire in the past, I had to be in charge of it, because I don't mind saying no, and if something comes through the door that ain't supposed to be there, I'll take it the fuck back or throw it in the trash. And I've always been that way. And so she, you know, she wants to be in charge of it, and so, you know, I just kind of take the position of, look, as long as this fucking card swipes and is approved on every fucking thing I swipe and approve it on, as long as I'm not being fucking crazy, I got no problems. You got a savings account, you got investments, you got all that stuff. As soon as we had enough money for her to do those things, she did it. And today we are financially secure. We work very well together. We spend a lot of time together, and we have a lot of sex. And if she were here right now, I am very certain that she would agree to all of that. Not only that it's real and it happens, but that I think she would agree. I think she would largely agree. I can't believe that I've been married to the same woman for 15 years, and I am so unbelievably attracted to her. I can't even tell you. There are no words. I love it. I love it. So that's my That's my 2 cents in on relationships. It's hard to do these things for just between an hour and 20 minutes because there's dozens of topics dozens of bullet points on these topics that, you just kind of have to prioritize one or the other. Like, it's kind of important, it's pretty important, it's really important, kick that one. These ones together are super important, but they take a lot of time, so we got to swipe those off the table and just compromise. That's really important. Money, that's good. So anyway, maybe one day I'll do a designation podcast of just marriage and relationships. Maybe that would be fun. Take you through some cool stories of us. Anyway, so to wrap it up, I want to talk about a post I saw on X this morning. I don't know if it was a joke. Something tells me that it's a joke, just to see what kind of idiots we're gonna get riled up. It was a verified account. I know that doesn't mean anything, but it wasn't a verified account with a bunch of random numbers and letters at the end of it, with some, lady in a backless dress taking a picture next to a fucking pond or whatever. It wasn't that. It was like an actual person. Today is Friday, February 27, 2026. So if you were on Twitter today and you saw a picture of a man holding a black object in his palm, a small black object in his palm, and said, "I found this behind my friend's daycare or school or something," and then they mentioned something about guns. I was in construction, and so immediately I'm looking at it. Why is he talking about guns? That's not that's a drill bit. So this is where we are in America with our people. If this was not a goof, it had to have been a goof. It had to have been. But if it was not, and the reason why I say but if it was not is because the amount of people that piled on the comments about a fucking drill bit for a screwdriver or a impact driver. Hey, you click on the fucking picture and the guy is very clearly holding a Phillips head drill bit with it was a DeWalt because it was the yellow stripe in the middle. He picked it up off the concrete. It looked like it had maybe been ran over a couple of times because it looked rough. But this thing was clearly a fucking drill bit. A Phillips head drill bit that you could either put into a magnetic holder, into a 6-in-1, whatever. It just came out of a DeWalt bit set. And this guy is putting it out like, I wonder what this is. So the person that I'm going to call a dummy, there is a person who has a lot of influence. I don't know about a lot. Personally, I find them abhorrent. I have known of them for a few years. Lex Friedman actually gave him a hell of an opportunity to not embarrass himself out in the public eye. However, I think that backfired greatly on him. Stephen Bonnell, or commonly known as Destiny, is a retard. Because he is either being completely facetious, but I don't think so because he does meth and is polyamorous and plays video games. So I think he is a retard. And he's got a bunch of really misguided opinions on things, and he doesn't concede to much. He just really wants to fight and win. When you go into debates or discourse that he has, he's kind of like Cenk Uygur. He just fucking starts yelling and saying that things are stupid but it's like, no, bro, you're the dumbass. You're wrong. You're wrong. Just say you're fucking wrong. It's a fucking screwdriver. Anyway, so he comes in on this thing, and because he's got the most, followers of anything, his comes up in the X feed with this picture that I seen mere hours ago, and it said something about gun control, and that's clearly a bullet. That's not just a bullet. That's the entire case. No, sir. That was a DeWalt Phillips head drill bit. There's really people out there that don't know what either a fucking bullet or a screwdriver are. And they call themselves men. Everybody, thank you so much for hitting me up here on Uniquely Unqualified Podcast. Again, like and subscribe. It means the world to me, even if it doesn't mean much to you. I'm gonna keep trying to build this and add a little bit of production. I'm sitting in my little corner here. I've got some other crap to throw up behind me. I'm waiting for a couple of deliveries from Amazon to set up even better video and audio stuff. So as we move forward, those subscriptions and those likes will definitely help me out. I drew that, by the way. That was a charcoal rendering of clearly a deer head. I just kind of sat in a museum and looked at the deer head and drew that with charcoal. So again, like and subscribe. Thank you guys very much. Uniquely Unqualified Podcast. Everybody have a great weekend. I'll come to you on Monday, and hopefully some crazy shit happens over the weekend so we can yell and scream about that. Have a great day.